Mr. Speaker, today appears to be a day for the first timers. Clearly, what it means is that this chamber has a great future where you have first timers and some senior members making a statement and hearing contributions. Mr. Speaker, before I get into my own contributions, I want to remind colleagues that we need to exercise. Because when we stand, we have to stand upright and make our statement. People are always bending. Since you can't stand on your waist, no, you need to stand. Whether a lady or gentleman, stand firm. If there's a problem, let's exercise. We have to exercise so that when we're on our feet, we're able to stand very firm and upright.
Honorable Minority Leader, the statement before us is on social justice.
That is true, Mr. Speaker. Good health will contribute to. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, the honorable members who made this statement drew our attention to a number of issues affecting society. Mr. Speaker, I would want to adopt the three statements from the members as though same were coming from me and rely on all of them for records. Except to say that, Mr. Speaker, I don't want this House to be drawn into the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. That conflict has its own history, and we need to be very cautious in drawing that conflict into our discussion in this House floor. And it's for the reason that I believe Honorable Gansa, although his statement was well intended, the way it came up, it created a certain impression. And I just want the record to reflect that this House is not taking sides in that conflict. We only pray that there will be justice for all in that enclave. Mr. Speaker, each day in my prayer, I pray for peace in the Middle East, guided by St. Francis of Assisi's prayer. I, being a Catholic, I always rely on that important prayer by St. Francis, where he calls for the Lord to make us an instrument of his peace. So, Mr. Speaker, our prayer is that wherever there is injustice, the God Almighty himself, the Lord Almighty himself, would lead the discussions that will lead to peace, so that there will be fairness for all. Mr. Speaker, the first maker of the statement, the respected member Nakoyo Kuno of Effutu Senya East. Mr. Speaker, she shared her own experiences. Mr. Speaker, we need to take steps as a people to address the way we do politics in this country. Some of us don't tell our stories, but we all know the things sometimes we go through. The attacks, the unfair treatment, the way we are manhandled, and all. But it appears that sometimes when injustice benefits somebody, the person is in a hurry to go to God, to church, to thank God, and sees him as blessing. But when the next day he is at the receiving end, you see the person crying for people to save him. For how long should that continue in our country? I have my own experience in Winneba in 2012. It took the Lord's intervention for me to be here. Somebody came to a close range with a pistol, all because I was campaigning. And I was lucky that he couldn't shoot. I don't know the mystery and the miracle behind it. Close range. I went through other situations that time will not permit me to recount. People are suffering injustice. Sometimes even our judiciary, the way our judges approach cases that come before them. For my years at the bar, I know that when there is an application pending before a court of justice will always deal with that interrogatory matter before coming to the substantive matter and ensure that there is fairness. For my years of practice, I know that when there is an application before a superior court raising issues of bias, the court below would at least wait for the supervisory jurisdiction which is being invoked to be considered and determined before dealing with the matter before him, all in the interest of fairness and justice. Are we experiencing that in all situations? I beg to say that no. So, Mr. Speaker, if we are calling for a fair society, then it shouldn't be.
Honourable Minority Leader.
Yes, sir.
With all due respect, that is not automatic. Looking at the practice and procedure in CI 47, you have a right to put in an application for stay of proceedings pending the determination of the matter at the court above.
Rightly so, Mr. Speaker. Not to disagree with you, but the example that I'm citing also has in it an application for stay of proceedings. An application for stay of proceedings. And in the light of an application for stay of proceedings, a judge goes ahead to say that a counsel should move his main application and goes ahead to determine the matter when there is an application for stay of proceedings pending. So, Mr. Speaker, I would want to strongly make this point, and I regret that this is coming at a time that I find myself in the minority front bench. It's very regrettable because some people may see my views as being too rich, but it's the reality of the day. As a country, we must not repeat that vicious cycle of you did it to me, I will do it to you. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I said something in an interview that sometimes the political class forgets that when an election is won, the mandate is for them to develop the nation and not to go after opponents. But since 1992, it appears we've not learned lessons from this. I recall when Kufuor won, we had comments on the streets of Accra. I was a young student then, that, oh, NDC, Omumbebio, NDC party negu. But 8 years down the line, NDC was back. When we had 169, similar comment, and we know the story today. So I am saying that some of the injustices that Ghanaians experience because of political affiliation must end. And I am not here to pick and choose. Mr. Speaker, Professor Mills of blessed memory made an effort on this imbalance. And I remember, Mr. Speaker, let me share this. I was into transport business, and I had a lot of trucks flying Awasu to Takrade. And I was a known MPP person. And when MPP lost, some people made it a point to be stopping my trucks. One of the shareholders of the company was close to the government of the day. He tells me that he managed to inform the then president and the then vice president. And immediately they gave instructions that no, that is not right for the country. That somebody has gone to take a loan to buy trucks, doing his business, and because he's an MPP, they should stop his business. Mr. Speaker, that effort was made. I remember, and I'll state it for public record. But would extremists allow moderate centrists in our political space to do their work to help with justice and fairness in society? We, the voices of reason, must prevail on those hardliners to understand that destroying an opponent is not the way to go. Mr. Speaker, why should somebody be afraid of a change in power because of fear of injustice? Mr. Speaker, the business community, sometimes I look at some businesses, and because I'm in the private sector, I know about this. A lot of Ghanaian businesses are tagged MPP, NDC, but you have these foreign entities owned by Indians, Israelis, Syrians, British, Americans. Their business remain untouched, whether it's MPP or NDC, and they are foreigners. When they make their profit, they move their money out. When the Ghanaian makes his profit, it remains here. A Ghanaian businessman is often tagged. Mr. Speaker, my respected member from Kwesimintim, who is now learning the rules, must learn to be quiet.
Honorable member for Kwesimintim.
He's gaining notoriety for this. Stop it. And he wears sunglasses in this chamber. Stop. You don't wear sunglasses in the chamber of parliament. That was not part of the rent. Speaker has cautioned you. You are still shouting.
Honorable member for Kwesimintim, if you don't want to be withdrawn from the chamber, let your conduct be orderly.
So, Mr. Speaker, businessmen, local businessmen, are always in fear. Their businesses are always being a target of injustice, political attacks. Whereas foreign businesses, Mr. Speaker, you find their embassies moving to promote their businesses, and our local businesses will be suffering. Why should there be a society like this? Mr. Speaker, the makers of the statement talked about economic rights, that our citizens have a right to be employed, and I dare emphasize that these are far rights. Economic rights are far rights. A right that when you have the qualification, you stand an equal chance of being considered is a far right. We have heard that in 2017 that there were comments by some political leaders on our side, and we'll be very honest with the facts here. We will not pretend or be hypothetical. Facts are facts. If we want to address these matters for proper steps tomorrow, we need to speak to the issue. But Mr. Speaker, the issue about Honorable Osafo that people refer to, I must say that indeed, when he made those statements, nothing of the sort happened. And I would want members who have contrary views to make those available. At least the mass dismissals we are experiencing.
Honorable Minority Leader,
was
at your back, Honorable Patrick Yaoboma is on his feet.
That is always a right to be exercised and a discretion for you to enforce.
Yes.
So I yield to you. What is your pleasure?
Thank you very much. Honorable is on his feet.
That is fair.
Are you on point of order?
Rightly so, Mr. Speaker. Point of information, Mr. Speaker. On Standing Order 93.5, whether it's still being enforced. That's all I want to know from you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, strictly being enforced.
So, Mr. Speaker, in the said situation, we didn't see the mass dismissal we are seeing today. But, Mr. Speaker, granted that it even happened as a nation, do we need it? The situation we find ourselves, Mr. Speaker, as a country, requires that all of us, especially those who are moving from left of center, right of center, and believe that, look, the country must move in a certain path, must be loud in their views. Because 4 years is not far from today. 20 years is not far from today. 30 years is not far from today. Mr. Speaker, I'm not here to talk politics, but I'm here to address a situation that is confronting us as a nation. And we are the people's representative. Granted that yesterday...
Honorable Minority Leader, you know the rules that you have to address the chair.
Very well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, granted that even yesterday it happened, and I did not see reason to address it. It does not stop me from addressing today, all for the good of our collective tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, that said, the respected colleague who is a medical doctor, Dr. Sandari, made a contribution and talked about healthcare. Mr. Speaker, we stay in Accra and we think Accra has everything and Ghana is a happy home. Mr. Speaker, it's not. The poverty out there. I travel through the countryside and I still see Atakwame buildings. Mr. Speaker, mad houses. I went to my village, our village, you and I, our village, Nyakonokwe. I was there New Year after visiting Chairman. I went to the village where I grew up, visited the family, and I saw poverty. No hospital, no water. In my own constituency, there are places that you see poverty. What he said is true. Today, people, though there is health insurance, because they cannot afford, they still resort to the traditional midwives. And they die and they attribute it to some other causes and they bury them quietly. This is not the promises that are enshrined in the Constitution. The promises that are enshrined in the Constitution include equal opportunity, justice, fairness, And it is for us as a political class to enforce these promises. We shouldn't pay lip service to these promises. It is a Ghanaian dream, a dream that the forebearers envisaged, and our duty as a ninth parliament is to lead in the process. So, if today is a commemorative day for social justice, this country must take it serious. A member for Awutu Senya East, where once upon a time I was a presiding member, has told us in clear terms that many people are going through challenges. But she was quick to assure us that this government is ready to put in place some policies to address these concerns. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, what she has said has become part of public record. And she has spoken as a member of the majority party and for and on behalf of government. And when it comes to accountability, we are going to associate ourselves with the statement and then, through government assurance, see to the implementation of these promises. So, Honorable Koyo Kuno, it is your duty, because you have made a very profound statement in very veritable words, and you've given assurances that this government is going to ensure that certain steps are taken in addressing social injustice. We look forward to that. Mr. Speaker, without more, let me thank all the makers of the statement and thank the various contributors, especially the first-timers. The first-timers of this parliament have shown promise. I've seen a lot of determination, both sides, seeing their CVs, and when they're on their feet, it's as though they've done 2 terms or 3 terms. The confidence level very high. We commend you. Continue with your research. There's a time for you to be doing more statements and be filing more questions. Let's get the national issues on the front burner. It doesn't matter your party. And let us hold the feet of government to the fire, not in the negative sense, but in the positive sense, all for the good of the people. Mr. Speaker, without more, let me thank you for this treasure space.
Thank you very much, Majority Leader. Honorable Majority Chief Whip, you have the floor.
Speaker, what else can I say than to